"Here's to the new us" is the last line of dialogue we hear. At the end of Season 1, Jinx becomes fully realized as she sits upon her throne as the manifestation of change and destruction is birthed at this moment. Her silver throne lined with crow feathers, Jinx is complete and awakened at this moment to live out her destiny. The crow is an extremely important motif for Jinx in Season 1. No, I'm not gonna Google what does a crow represent because that's not a good solution to understand what the show is trying to tell us. Narrative analysis stems from interpreting the visuals and storytelling presented to us. And by that logic, the crow represents so much more than just change or death or anything else. In that regard, it's pretty clear that the crow represents Jinx. Pretty simple when Echo vs. Jinx directly references each character with either a firelight or a crow. Jinx being the latter. Now, what does that mean? The first time a crow appears isn't when Silco takes her in, not within her workshop, but right after Jinx gets a PTSD shock and returns to her old hideout with Vi and the gang. A crow flies in which startles Jinx, who then, strangely, kills it. Jinx wants to be alone here. That's quite hard to do when Jinx and Powder fight each other within her mind space all the time. But why kill a crow if the crow represents Jinx? Jinx and Powder are two completely different demeanors. Jinx is strong, confident, wild, while Powder is weak, unsure, and emotional. When Jinx was Powder, all she did was screw up and fail and disappoint. But when Jinx manifested and thrived under Silco, she was the most sure of herself as ever. Jinx, over the time skip, blossomed into the true manifestation of Zaun that Silco cherished above all else. Everything only started to crumble when Jinx saw someone who looked like Vi. The powder started leaking out. Powder is weakness. Powder is unlucky. Powder screwed up that mission. Jinx was able to single-handedly launch an attack in the most secure area of Piltover and steal a Hex Gem, while Powder was scared of a little marble. Jinx coming back to the hideout is to reconfront the Powder side of her with so many memories locked up. Maybe Powder is still an important, necessary part of her psyche. Maybe being Powder is good. Since this is the time for Powder, she does away with Jinx. She does away with the crow to fully release everything Powder is capable of. With Powder's strength coming from her emotional attachments to her past, sister, and peers, she lets everything out on the boxing machine to see what strength Powder still has. Powder screams and lets out all her emotions as she fights the machine, while for Jinx, she always remains calm under pressure. Tired physically and emotionally, the boxing drill ends as Powder, her name engraved in the sign, ends up still second place. Again, a failure, confirmation of her weakness and uselessness. We know this interpretation is correct as immediately after this scene, Jinx meets with Silco, who stresses the importance of shedding your weaker, older self to be reborn again, new and empowered. Silco understands the struggle between new and old identities.
That day, I let a weak man die, and another was reborn.
Silco was emotional, feeling trust and betrayal, and almost giving up as Vander tried to murder him. In the murky rivers of Zod, the new Silco awoke as he grew his infected eye, merciless with resolve as he scrapped for anything to give him the edge. Silco is characterized with two central symbols, sea monsters and desire. Time to let the monster out is what he's familiar with, as he admires the creatures in the dark that only emerge when pushed into the darkest corner. Silco's orange eye is representative of that side of him, unblinking, always staring forward. As that eye was birthed in the river, it even gives Silco a fish eye stare in some scenes. The monster within him understands the importance of doing everything for power, much like a rat faced with death. To let the waters of helplessness seep in is to die. To struggle is to live. To struggle is to win. Silco killed the old, emotional boy to become the conniving, pragmatic leader he is now. So far gone is the past Silco that we only see him once, lamenting to Vander about his regrets. But Silco is familiar with the inner identity turmoil of Jinx, and guides her along the path he took. But when Jinx finds out about Vi again, Powder is still there. Taking charge again, she calls out to Vi as she pushes Jinx aside. Quite fitting, as the crow that is Jinx seems to be watching this from the distance, cawing out. As Vi and Powder reconcile, the crow warns Powder as Caitlyn runs up the stairs. The crow warns Jinx again as she picks up on the firelights around her. As the black bird flies off, Jinx comes back to control again, this time no time for weakness, until Vi gets taken. Now, you get the point. With Vi back in the picture, Jinx and Powder struggle for control. Jinx only gets her hallucinations when Powder starts getting insecure. Jinx doesn't get distracted when she's killing firelights, tinkering with explosives, or kidnapping Caitlyn. It's only when mental conflict between the two ensues that Milo and Claggor start to appear. In fact, it only happens when Powder starts coming out of Jinx. When Jinx takes over Powder, she just gets straight down to business. It's interesting how the sight of Echo doesn't draw out Powder. After all, they were the closest friends as the youngest kids of the group. Jinx only gets hallucinations when Vi's around. Part of that is due to Vi's involvement in the incident, but another part is that Vi only loves Powder, which makes Jinx want to be Powder, while Echo seemingly lost hope a long time ago. Maybe it has something to do with their flashback where Jinx found closure, but something happened between the two that gave both sides the resolution they needed to move on. Almost. Jinx is the crow who only appears as Powder takes control of her body to engage with her emotions, to resolve her inner turmoil. That's what the tea party is. This time, many crows gathered around. Powder lets it all out here in the heart-to-heart between her and her sister. Jinx takes over briefly as she tries to take on Caitlyn as the crows watch on in intrigue, until Vi calls her sister out to play and the two fight for control again. It's not until killing Silco that the crows truly fly away, Jinx truly coming into her own. Powder is gone. Powder is dead. Upon the throne of Jinx, with feathers outstretched like wings, like she is one of them, Jinx is perfect. Silco repeats this phrase several times during the baptism,
Jinx is perfect.
And during his death.
Don't cry. You're perfect.
Jinx is perfect for Silco. Powder is perfect for Vi. So why does Jinx choose to be Jinx here, even though Silco is gone? Even when shooting the rocket at Piltover, Jinx doesn't enjoy it, her tears indicative of that fact. Maybe it's Powder leaking out. But she shoots away, excess heat evaporating her sadness away, evaporating Powder away. I take us back to what Jinx said. Here's to the new us. Jinx was who she needed to be under Silco. Jinx was who she needed to be for herself. Cold, capable, and colorful. Jinx loves expressing herself in everything she does. All Powder does is cry and break down. Once again affirm that she, as Jinx, is perfect, is enough. She truly believes in herself that only Jinx is needed. Even though the one person who cared about Jinx is dead, now that Jinx is sure of who she is, then that is all that matters. They only have themselves. She understands that Vi will despise Jinx, and she's okay with that. Preferred, actually. It's so great to see that once Jinx abjectly embraces her true identity, that she becomes the bona fide heroine of Zaun, an angel for the revolution. Much like how Jinx is Zaun, Zaun is Jinx. Being Powder would make Vi happy, but not Jinx. As for Jinx, to carry out the dream of her father and herself is what she was always meant to do. Now with him gone, she inherited his will to keep fighting and pushing. Jinx would not live under the oppressive oligarchy. Jinx does not bend, and neither will Zaun. It's almost like everything was supposed to be this way. Everything Jinx did led to heightened conflict between Piltover and Zaun. Powder blew up a building which sent hordes of enforcers marching into the Undercity. Powder caused the death of a pacifist Vander for a radical Silco to take over. Jinx took the Hex Gem, which had the Council essentially replace Heimerdinger with Jace. Jinx killed a squad of enforcers on the bridge to push Hextech weapon development. And Jinx shot a rocket which was heard all around the world. Jinx is the embodiment of destruction, leaving a path of carnage wherever she treads. But for Zaun, that is merely because she is already walking amidst incinerated fields. All Zahn knows is crime, casualties, and calamity. At least this is Piltover's time to experience that. Explosives tear down the old for the new, and Jinx is shaking up the status quo for new beginnings. There is a base violence necessary for change, a principle ingrained within the Cyan Pink savior. Humanity is comfortable surviving in the status quo, but that is not exciting. Jinx thrives on adventure, thrill, and risk. As does Zahn, so dictates their way of life. And Piltover seemingly hates that, snuffing them out, depriving them of all light. And still, Piltover has been virtually untouchable, a city atop a hill. But only Jinx has been able to taint the hallowed ground. Time and time again, Piltover was not built to contain Jinx. Piltover was not founded to restrain Zahn. And so, when these boots take a step, the ground quakes, the buildings crumble. To Piltover, Jinx is but a boogeyman. A terrorist, the silver blade capable of striking fear on those atop the golden heights. For Zahn, she is the one chance they have of things actually improving. Fully manifested in her resolve, the awakened Jinx is the only one capable of wielding the weapon that is herself. Again, Silco's imagery with the monsters emerge. He needs a monster that strikes fear into the heart of Piltover, lurking beneath the surface until it's time to strike. That monster is Jinx. That is why Jinx is perfect. Like a pack of wolves, only the alpha needs to dictate its target. Given enough hope and courage, grit and shimmer, Zahn will become a monster themselves. And the monster must strike fear with a determined shark-tooth grin that smiles hungrily as Piltover receives 200 years worth of pain and payback. Hextech is change incarnate, with whoever wielding the arcane gem able to enact their will and vision upon the world. Jace seeks to build, Victor to cure, Echo to fix, Vi to protect, and Jinx to paint the world anew. Yet, the importance of Shimmer cannot be understated. Shimmer and Hextech are both crucial pillars to Jinx's current strength. Shimmer is the monster within us all, the inner strength and resolve anyone needs to actually be someone. Those without will be addicted. Those who have it wield it to their liking. Two sides of the same coin, Hextech and Shimmer. Hextech is the change through your dreams, through your vision, while Shimmer is the change through your strength. Deckard fought for obedience, Vander fought to protect, Huck fought for ego, Savika fights for order, Vi fights to save, and Silco fights for the future. But Shimmer is passively in Jinx's veins. She has the natural will to change the world forever through her vision and her ability. Hence, why Jinx doesn't need to take Shimmer and it's always within her body. The differences between Hextech and Shimmer are plain to see when we compare Vi and Vander. As Vander's successor, Vi's ideology is the exact same as his, again the inherited will. But as Vander took Shimmer, Vi used Hextech. Vander has no dreams to fight, no vision for violence, but strength is what he needed to hold those close to him and to keep them close. As for Vi, her strength is the opposite of what she needs. Vi's strength drives people away, but it's her desire and goal to protect those she cares about. Hextech caters towards dream and vision, while Shimmer caters towards strength. But that is why Jinx is dangerous. With the best parts of Vi and Vander, the strength to fight, the desire to fight, the will to fight, and the craziness to fight. The strongest person has to do anything for power, and what's more dangerous than someone with nothing to lose? Someone who lost it all, multiple times. I actually lied earlier. The last words of Arcane is right before Jinx shoots the rocket, as we pan to Silco previously saying, "We will show them. We will show them all." Episode 3 Powder was at her lowest, without a strength or a dream. Episode 9 Jinx showed us all who she is and what she's capable of. Even if she's by herself, Jinx is enough. More than enough. Jinx is so incredibly lonely. Yet, Jinx is the easiest to compare with all the major characters of the show. In some regard to everyone around her, Jinx is but a warped version of what could have been. Vi is a competent Jinx if everything she put her mind towards succeeded. That is why Powder looked up to Vi, oozing confidence and competence. That was who Powder wanted to be, but post timeskip is completely different.
Even though I'm different.
So irreconcilably different they were that Jinx had to murder the pacifist within her sister. But how so? Vi's good heart allows her to bond with the most unlikely of allies. Her throbbing empathy wouldn't ever sacrifice someone close to her before herself. Jinx cannot do that. She was barely able to handle herself as it is. Vi and Jinx are as different as Vander and Silco. The clash of ideologies is precisely what drove the conflict between the two. Twice. The story of Arcane is whether or not the two sisters will repeat the sins of their fathers, whose one difference in mindset paved the path for war time and time again. As Silco says, everyone else betrays them. They only have each other. Now with Silco gone, Jinx realizes how lonely she will be and how the love of her sister isn't for Jinx. As for Caitlyn, she was asked, "What are you shooting for?" Caitlyn shoots to protect, Jinx shoots to kill. Time and time again, these two face off, natural opposites. Both obsessive, both misguided, both brash, but one is good and one is bad. Blue hair, pale skin, and good aim, they differ in their target. Justice or crime, honor or desperation. Jinx's entire existence is everything Caitlyn stands against. Dangerous, reckless, violent, and overall loose cannon. No wonder she immediately concluded she's far too gone after only hearing her speak for 2 minutes. The two cannot live in a world with the other. Destined enemies, hence why Vi would always need to pick between them. You think Mel might be tricky, but we actually get a direct contrast in the final scene, peace and war. Of course, the woman with everything would want peace, while the one with nothing would want war. Both are conniving, but one's a planner and one's a doer. One calculates all the possibilities that could go wrong and goes with her head to avoid conflict. The other jumps headfirst into battle, even if her feelings tell her no. Mel acts with her brain, Jinx acts with her gut. The two are the only with a passion for the arts. Even then, they are so different. Mel's paintings sophisticated, refined, and showcase her demeanor alongside her state of mind. Jinx doesn't even draw on the canvas, scribbling and graffiti on everything, much like her persona cannot be contained. At every moment, Mel hides her true intentions, subtly manipulating the situation and others to do what she wants. For Jinx, she has no qualms getting her hands dirty and showing feelings. Hell, she loves it. Vander is a similar comparison, as he wants peace while Jinx yearns for war. Vander loathes death while Jinx causes it. Maybe for Season 2, one fails to control his inner demons while the other conquers them. And Vander wanted to protect Powder, while Jinx wanted to kill her. Comparing Jinx and Heimerdinger, one's the founder of Piltover, while the other is the founder of Zaun. Heimerdinger creates all the problems that Zaun faces, Jinx solves them. One gets ousted as a bastion for the past, and the other immortalized as a revolutionary, as the guide for the future. Jinx is everything Heimerdinger feared about Hextech, some rogue stealing it to cause mayhem. All the dangers of Hextech is precisely the kind of misery Jinx will inflict Piltover. A large core of the thematic messaging behind Heimerdinger's paranoia and Jinx's outlook towards Piltover makes me believe that Jinx will absolutely decimate Piltover at the climax of Season 2. Realizing Heimerdinger's worst fears as she tears down everything he created. Every teaser for Season 2 always includes Heimerdinger getting surprised or looking at some sort of Hextech explosion, but you can watch my in-depth video about that. Moving on to Echo, who is connectedness, while Jinx is separation. One followed Vi while one stayed back. Echo dreams of going to the past to fix it. Jinx hates reliving the past because then she is broken. Echo is the boy savior, Jinx the girl destroyer. As the two gleaming lights as the future for Zaun, remnant ideologies of Vander and Silco respectively, their conflict to control Zaun's future is seemingly destined. Echo is the hope of Zaun, Jinx is its wrath. With Singed, here's what happens if Jinx just doesn't care. Devoid of emotion, Singed just sits locked away, doing whatever he does, but oh boy does he have a goal in mind. Jinx struggles in relation to those around her or her memories of the past, while the Mad Doctor just doesn't care and does anything to achieve his goal. Emotions couldn't hold him back. But Singed's path to cure death is a lot more abstract and his atrocities far less egregious. For Jinx, the path to independence is just across the bridge. But the directness and the scale of that dream is what makes her Piltover's #1 enemy. I did a whole video on Jace and Jinx, but Jinx and Jace are just complete polar opposites. Jace is a privileged rich Piltover kid and the pioneer of creation and is Piltover's golden boy, while Jinx is an unlucky Zaun knight and a harbinger of destruction and just recently embraced as the daughter of Zaun. One is the head of Piltover's council, the other, Zaun's outcast. Now for Victor and Jinx, it's somewhat similar. Victor is Jinx would have ended up as if she attended Piltover's academy. They are both risk takers who do anything, but Jinx stayed in Zaun and learned to survive, while Victor was able to explore his scientific side more. The interesting parallel is that Victor and Jinx are the only two who use Shimmer and Hextech. Victor uses Hextech to shape his dream of performing goodness through arcane adaptation and needs Shimmer to gain strength within himself and to act out his will. Victor and Jinx are actually kindred souls, the former of which complementing her inspired engineering. Both cracked Hextech in a day, and both are extremely alone. Victor has a gifted mind and logic, while Jinx has a gifted mind and passion. Jinx and Savika have a major rivalry. Savika is order, while Jinx is chaos. Savika has no vision for Zaun, while Jinx does. The two have opposing personalities, but have complementary roles within Zaun. Finally, Jinx and Silco are the most alike. The only thing that is different is that Jinx actually has to put her money where her mouth is and see a war to its finish. Silco never really had to win a war for independence, not of this scale. And Silco built up Jinx to be everything he couldn't, particularly her inner strength. Silco never had to fight, nor was he particularly good at it. So of course he made her into the perfect weapon. Silco groomed her to be the perfect leader of Zaun and for her to take his place, God forbid. And her time is now. But any way you spin it, Jinx is the most different character from everyone we've been introduced to. Sure, you can make similar comparisons between other characters, but the contrasts won't be as solid, deep, or as spelled out as they are with Jinx. All major characters have been directly or intentionally completely avoided being compared to her. In a sense, everyone is Jinx's enemy, her foil. Well, that's putting it wrong. Jinx is everyone else's foil. Through the world building and character exploration, Jinx is isolated at every turn. Jinx with resolve, Jinx with luck, Jinx with education, Jinx with friends, Jinx with justice, Jinx with family, Jinx without emotion, Jinx without vision, Jinx without responsibility, Jinx against war, and Jinx with age. The final song that played is Jinx's entire design philosophy, what could have been. The tragedy about Jinx is that she could have easily ended up on the right path like anyone else. If only she didn't screw up as much, if only she was lucky, if only she was in the academy, if only she could socialize, if only. Locked up in her hideout, the only company Jinx knows is her demons. But that's why she makes dolls of Milo and Clagger. They are still company. Another parallel rises as Jinx spends her off hours ruminating in her steel oasis, while Victor offloads steam at his clock tower. The locations that characters decide to spend their off hours in alone reflects their state of mind. No wonder Victor hears a ticking clock behind him as his life wastes away, while Mel tries to regain control and agency in her high-rise overlooking Piltover. Jace returns to his ruined laboratory, testament to his crumpled dreams. Caitlyn mourns in her luxurious shower, comfortable but empty. Silco talks to Vander, his one tether to the humanity he had to kill. During these moments of troubled thoughts, characters seek some solace and familiarity. Victor gets to gaze at the hometown he left behind. The sound of water drowns out Caitlyn's sorrow. The lights of Piltover, the last remnants shining for Jace. The painting of Noxus bringing comfort to Mel. But the abandoned turbine Jinx resides in is cold, dangerous, infested, and haunted. Drawings, music, murals, and explosions drown out her past regrets, present anxieties. Silence is what's truly dangerous. Every time she works, Jinx needs maximum stimulation, loud music, and flashing lights to concentrate. There's a unique theme with Jinx and height portrayed throughout the series. Episode 2, she struggled to cling on the roof frame, but she gravitated towards that position naturally. Post-Jinx, she lives in the turbine high above the Undercity, roams the ceiling in Silco's room, climbs high on the tower to find Vi, and frequents Piltover to do her shenanigans. In fact, Powder and Vi gazing up at Piltover remind themselves that this city is gonna respect them. Height equals respect. Heimerdinger lost all his authority and immediately went to the Undercity. Victor feels shut out in Piltover and regains his determination in Zaun. Vi, after hitting Powder, was stored in the lowest level with Stillwater. And no one is more dynamic in altitude than Jinx. Powder tries to get that respect and fails in Act 1. Jinx has some respect but yearns for more. Still, Silco's whole motivation is to get more respect, for Zaun to rise up to Piltover's level, a lesson probably internalized by Jinx. Jinx hides in her layout to build the rocket that will win Silco over. She sits above his chair to remind him she's there, that she's important. Jinx climbs the tower to regain Vi's respect for her, and look where all of that led up to at the end of Season 1. Jinx at the very bottom again, accepting of herself though, and disregards any prideful desires. Instead, she aims at the beacon of hierarchy at Piltover to bring them down to her level. But respect is inherently lonely. Infinite amounts of it makes you feel isolated, and none at all is even worse. To do away with loneliness at the top of Zaun, at the bottom of Piltover. The amazing part of Arcane writing is that characters are dynamic, the setting ever changing, pushing the personalities we love to flip, to go beyond. In Act 3, we start getting some of that. Vi without family, Savika with leadership, Heimerdinger grounded in the present, Echo isolated from major events, Caitlyn out for blood, Jace causing destruction, Mel the first casualty of war, and Jinx will flip as well. Season 2 Jinx is a whole nother beast, reclaiming everything she missed out on. Jinx with responsibility, Jinx with heroism, Jinx with a purpose, Jinx with those around her, Jinx with connection, Jinx with capability, and ultimately, a Jinx at peace. Loneliness is where Vi left Powder at the end of Act 1. Within that darkness, Jinx festered and grew, her festive soul a byproduct. Within that loneliness, Jinx built herself up, tinkering, training, and planning. From loneliness, Jinx drew out her strength. For Powder, the thought of Vi kept her going, kept her alive, as she said so herself. Holding out hope her sister was still there. That's why there's no statue of Vi found in her hideout. But that's also why she doesn't see Vi in her hallucinations. The hallucinations are a byproduct of Powder's thoughts leaking into Jinx. Milo, Clagger, and Vander just made her feel more alone while Vi made her feel stronger. Silco and Vi were positioned at opposite sides of the table, the two most important people for Jinx or Powder. But it wasn't until Silco was killed that Jinx finally became all alone, and she accepted that darkness, used that loneliness to manifest into her most powerful self. Have you ever wondered what it's like to drown? Jinx doesn't need to. Flooded with expectations, ambitious, sadness, guilt, failure, abandonment, hope, trauma, betrayal, apathy, pain, emptiness. Jinx doesn't get a moment of silence. She tries to drown it all out with stimulation, the only moment where she can be productive. Every moment she gets asked the same question Silco had. Have you ever had enough? But Jinx has a reason, a hope. She could just let it all in and consume her, especially losing Vi in her mind. But again, there's a raging feeling, a natural instinct to struggle, to fight. Silco's lessons have been a crucial part of making Jinx Jinx. He understands the struggle of flooding emotions, telling her to take time off anyways. There's a difference between how Silco and Vi raised her. Both said that they would do anything to ensure a better life for Powder, for Jinx. But Vi stuffed powder behind the steel vault, while Silco truly understood she was ready. No wonder she blossomed under Silco, while Vi failed to see the potential within. So focused is Vi on protecting powder that she sacrifices herself and both their sanities, while Silco heightened both their agencies and desire. Silco is willing to fight for a better future, for Jinx and all of Zaun, and lets her do the fighting. So what if she gets injured or nearly dies? Jinx can handle it. I doubt Silco would have been more protective of her after the bridge incident. That's just not his style. Jinx has that sense of sacrifice to save Zaun, not the sacrifice to neuter it like Vi and Vander. That is why Jinx has to live, not just for her father, but for the spirit of Zaun. The Zaun under Silco had many problems, but personality was not one of them. The underground got lively, brighter, a sort of thriving even under Piltover. Dangerous, yes, but again, necessary for change. The Council wants Jinx because she is their messiah, the only one capable of damaging Piltover, the only personality that could unite Zaun. Silco could never give that up. Independence is independence, but only on paper. As Echo said, you can't survive, you need to live. That's the mindset for all great leaders presented in Zaun, the constant progress and ability to grow. It's symbolic that Jinx is the one helping Silco with his eye medication. Prior to that, he just relied on himself to achieve his vision, to draw out the monster. But some weakness developed, barely able to hold on to his ideal. Jinx is the reason why he pushes on, looks forward, and the reason why he fails to take that final step. Jinx needs Silco just as much as Silco needs her. Even under pressure from Chem Barons, he tries to hold things together, because Jinx is the hope for a new tomorrow. The monster within Silco created Shimmer to bring out the monster within. But even Vander recognized that monsters can't win wars. Silco laments that he just needs to scare them. Sure, Enforcers barely step foot into Zaun after the time skip, but Zaun still suffers under Piltover's tyranny. But Jinx scares Topside without Shimmer. She already has that monster, and she was the one who was able to bring Hextech to Zaun. Recognizing the importance of Hextech, Silco had Jinx develop the rocket that ultimately ignited war. Silco and his Shimmer brought Zaun its identity. Jinx and her Hextech brought Zaun its dream. Under surgery, Singe noticed how the procedure will be demanding, might even change her. To that, it does. She gets Shimmer coursing through her veins, and she feels more alone than ever. This was when the monster was conceived, but in the finale, she becomes the monster that Silco and Vi created. Are you prepared to lose her? Singe questions, because Miss Purple Eyes becomes a completely different beast of herself. Next time we see her is at the tea party. The central theme of the whole sequence is the haunting past, that nothing ever stays dead. Her feelings, memories, trauma, the past rises out of the depths to remind us, to shackle us. But it also motivates us. Vi made Jinx, and the first words Silco told Powder are, "We will show them all." Yes, Vi was in Jinx's mind to keep her going. And to show Vi she's strong, Jinx had to grow. Weird how when they reconcile, Jinx cries that she's changed. And when they have their falling out, Jinx repeats that they are different. Any change Jinx undergoes inherently drives her away from Vi, away from the Powder she used to be, closer to the monster Silco wanted to nurture. Are we still sisters, she asks. Always. The Powder Silco tried to shed in the river comes back up in full force, full intent on reconciliation as she blames Silco for hiding Vi, for lying, for being about to sell Jinx out, while the introspective Jinx cries out as a crow. But a nagging feeling looms over Powder, the leech that is Caitlyn, distracting Vi numerous times. If Jinx would kill Silco to be with Vi, Vi should kill Caitlyn. The crow laughs and Jinx pretends she made a cupcake. After telling Vi to kill Caitlyn, the only thing that shakes Jinx up is Vi saying they can just leave together. That's the whole problem. Jinx found purpose, passion, and power in Zaun even though she was lonely. Her environment pushed her growth and she was molded by her surroundings. Leaving everything behind, what is she anymore? Silco was right. They will only be together one day before they realize that they are not the same people. Hell, that realization comes in 5 minutes. Everyone betrays us. They will never understand. What don't they understand? Did Vander not understand Silco for his dream of independence? But on that front, Piltover understood, offering a seat at the table. its identity. Silco and Jinx understood each other fundamentally. Vander did not understand how Silco could not live life as a lapdog. Piltover did not understand how Zahn could live without a sense of self. Vi does not understand how Powder is Jinx, how Jinx is Powder. After a short confrontation, the whole tea party is a disaster, and this is where Vi nails her coffin.
Powder! Wake up! Remember who you are!
Is this not who she is? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with Jinx? There's not but one man who loves Jinx for Jinx, Powder, and everything in between. And she just killed him. You're perfect, as Jinx internalizes herself. Jinx is all that she needs. Is there anything as undoing as a daughter, as an heir? Your hopes and dreams passed down and repeated in greater fervor. The passing of a torch is a constant dynamic in Arcane, the sundial of influence panning from Heimerdinger to Jace, the nature of sacrificial progress fed from Singed to Victor, and the failure of duty repeated by Vi from Vander. A father's undoing is the making of the daughter. For every ounce he loses, every pound she gains. Vi created Jinx, but Silco fed her, and she's grown up all big and strong for the world to see. Happy Progress Day, Jinx shouts as she creates her own celebration for her father. The most important words for Jinx was when Vi emphasizes that what makes her different is what makes her strong. For Jinx, her engineering and her art are her strength. We get the sense that Jinx is heavily involved in the scientific community, probably attending Jace's speech where she finds out about the existence of the Hex Gems. She steals a myriad of other gadgets too, like the butterfly. There are two art styles for Jinx, one for Powder, one for Jinx. The things Jinx creates give her strength through ingenuity, her butterfly bombs, her chopper bomb, her combustible paint, her weaponry, and her whole lab. Powder's drawings give her strength through emotions, her dolls of Milo and Clagger, her ashtray for Silco, and her murals around the opera ruins, indicating how Powder is still alive. For the rest of Zahn, their engineering helped cover up their weakness. Savika's arm replaces what she lost. Smeech has longer limbs for his short stature. Finn has a metal jaw to make up for his non-existent jawline and low testosterone. You get my point. In design philosophy, Zahnites augment to cover up their weakness, while Jinx uses it to maximize her strength. I'm repeating myself here, but just like Hextech, Vi has her gauntlets to better smash and protect, and Jace has his hammer to be even more brutish of a force. The way Zahnites use Hextech is to cover up their weakness, to address their faults and shortcomings. Victor gets to walk, Vi fixes her guard, and Echo gets to redo his mistakes. What makes Jinx different is precisely what makes her strong. Her artistic spirit of self-empowerment confuses enemies, terrifies foes, and sets the stage for the diva of destruction. Jinx is a larger-than-life figure, and her dramatic attacks in Piltover and Zahn would obviously make her a hero of the revolution. When it comes to a lot of greatest pieces of media, we can say stuff like this show is objectively amazing. But Arcane is not only perfect on a narrative and visual level, but it oozes with soul and passion, and that's why it's my favorite show ever. The same goes for Jinx. Hextech weapons and contraptions are arguably flawless, perfect machines, but they feel empty. Jace loses his soul when he swings his hammer, and Vi betrays her peephole in her Enforcer glove outfit. But Jinx emanates her charm and her contraptions, her artistry in full display. Though divided, her sense of self is strengthened through her creations, through her deeds, and that's what makes her strong, makes her different, makes her unique. Much like how Progress Day is a day of hope for Piltover, it's a similarly important event for Jinx. This quality was always present in her. Even as Powder, her machines weren't for covering weaknesses but for enhancing strength, helping Vi and Clagger be better fighters, helping herself get better aim, and maybe helping Milo be useless by making a game console machine. The only other scientists within Zahn are Singed and Echo. Singed is quite literally the traditional Zahnite, dedicating his entire operation of curing death, presumably because of his weakness and past mistakes, reviving his dead daughter. While for Echo, he shares that vision with Powder, creating various spyware to bolster his intelligence gathering capabilities, trying to keep control on all of Zahn. Post-time skip, Echo's machine both play into his strength with speed and adaptability while covering for his weakness with armor and time tracking. The two upstarts in the Undercity, Echo and Jinx, are both hopes for the future. Echo of the pacifist ideology from Vander and Benzo, while Jinx is the changemaker found in Silco. The clash on the bridge is one for connectedness versus separation, as I said before. Echo brings people together to mutually thrive, while Jinx cuts more and more people off until she's by herself at the end of the season. But this is also a fight for peace, for the Hexgem, for war. Echo has intentions of returning the Hexgem back to Piltover, maintaining connectedness between the two cities, while we know what Jinx does with it, guaranteeing separatedness from topside. The consequences of that fight continue this imagery. Echo still managing to connect with the relic of Piltover, while Jinx feels more alone after the surgery. But Echo and Jinx are different paths of progress for the Undercity. Echo's ideology is of strength through teamwork, hence his disavowing of Shimmer, a source of individual strength. With him unlocking Hextech next season, will he be able to enact his vision over Zod, or will Jinx reign supreme? Who knows, for the present is a tale of separation. There are a lot of creators within Arcane, each with a different motivation. Mel is an artist, capturing her landscapes on canvas while using her political strength to shape Piltover to her desire. After getting distracted and disappointed by Jace, the first thing she does is pick up a paint scraper and focus on what she's actually working for. As she paints a piece of her homeland, Noxan ships leaving jagged cliffs, it serves to comfort her. It's a moment of peace for the ever-busy woman. That episode, Mel draws from her Noxan upbringing, pushing Jace to develop weapons. At the end of the season, Mel gives up her Noxan heritage and takes off the ring, vowing for peace as her painting is ensnared by the golden weaves of thread reminiscent of Piltover's peaceful ideology. Through her art, Mel expresses the world she wants to help create. Art, a metaphor for vision. While for Jace, he clings on to his experience with the Arcane, a mage suddenly transporting him and his mom out of a nasty winter storm to a peaceful, temperate plains. That is what Jace tries to accomplish through his Hextech, the amazement and wonder it brought him, but this time to Piltover. And he succeeded, but he stopped. Once counselor, Jace loses that idea of engineering and making stuff and just listens to what the nearest person tells him. Jace engineered to build a better tomorrow. With Victor, his driving force has been to do good and solve problems. That is what he had to deal with his whole life. Victor is a lot more risk-seeking, with just the possibility of something amazing happening tempting him to proceed. With the Hex Core, Victor overcame his disabled legs and making progress to cure future disabilities and ailments. Victor stayed true to him being a scientist, constantly experimenting throughout the series for constant small progress, until he killed Sky and betrayed his ideal of creating good. Victor then tried to destroy the Hex Core and disavow his dream. For Victor, he experimented to do some good with his life. I'll touch base briefly with Echo, who built hoverboards for fun and to reduce Shimmer in the lanes. Echo creates to live, to have a sense of control. Now Singe does everything to cure death and bring back his daughter, yada yada yada. We see him have no morals whatsoever, killing a cute hairless cat, peer pressuring kids to take drugs, making heroin, putting a salamander in a tube for 20 years, cheaping out on anesthetics, and unethically making a fucking wolf monster. Everything he does is inching forward to his ultimate goal. Singe sacrifices morals for discovery. Now we get the sense that Heimerdinger used to be a scientist, but we have no idea what his contributions are. He is also a politician, but he doesn't have a specific vision for the city anymore. In that respect, we don't see Heimerdinger creating anything. Science and artistry go hand in hand, just look at Michelangelo. In all of Arcane, Jinx is the only one who delves into both. A unique blending of her vision for the world with the capability to use that vision for change. Sure, you can say vision and action apply to Jace and Victor, but the difference is rigidity. There's a specific Hextech world in mind that Jace wishes to facilitate, a different Hextech world that would satisfy Victor. But Jinx's vision is freeform, less direct, more abstract. Just like Mel wanting peace, there's a myriad of things you can do for independence, but the two just need a little trust in themselves and their decisions to steer the wheel for a preferred destination. What separates Mel from Jinx is the fact that Jinx turns her art into reality. How Jinx gets her hands dirty to enact that change. Mel manipulates others to get what she wants, but most of the time, Mel is sitting back in left field. Art in Arcane defines self-identity, while engineering and science defies personal agency. When it comes to ingenuity, intelligence, and artistic expression, Jinx stands head and shoulders ahead of everyone else. Her unique blend of science, passion, and heart gives herself and her actions the agency to change, and change she will. I said that word a lot today, change. Jinx is the greatest embodiment of change within the show, after all. That's why people misconstrue crows to mean change. Crows in Arcane represent Jinx, just so happens that Jinx represents change. From the beginning to the end, Jinx has developed the most out of any other character. Everything I've talked about so far are the multifaceted developments Jinx undergone to get to the point at the finale. The blurring identities of Jinx and Powder, the loneliness defining her struggle turned strength, the monstrous capability nurtured by Silco, the endless climb for progress. Identity, personality, ability, agency. Jinx is change incarnate. No one else gets a specific name change, but change is what she struggles with for the longest time. Vi leaving her, or even Vi coming back, bringing their own sets of trauma. Jinx was the one that lived in the present, enjoying music, art, and her bombastic demonstrations. The past haunts her, the future scares her. Every promise people make to her she interprets as lying. Same goes with every action in retrospect. Throughout all Season 1, Jinx is confronted with the reality that things are different, to which she fully takes on the mantle of Jinx to acclimate. It's quite ironic that the ultimate incarnation of change was the one who feared it the most. But that is the beauty of her character arc, becoming the polar opposite of her initial self and accepting the unpredictability of the future and internalizing the events of the past. Jinx is complete by the end of Season 1. Dare I say a complete character? Arguably, Jinx is truly perfect at the end of Season 1 with her persona completely established, defined, with no inconsistencies, acting completely within her personality and goals. There are moments where Vi doesn't choose her sister, where Caitlyn isn't good-hearted, where Echo accepts separation, where Heimerdinger is wrong, where Mel is regretful, where Jace is dumb, where Victor lost his bet. Much like Singe, Jinx, as a path set in stone, and her determination knows no bounds. The confidence she exudes as the last traces of Powder are extinguished speaks bounds, as she shoots the rocket. But nothing ever stays dead. Jinx is Jinx. Jinx is perfect. Jinx is strength. Jinx is the future. I think at this point we understand Jinx just a little bit better. I've been teasing the discussion of her rocket, the actual war that's to follow, the first action of a reawakened Jinx, the last action of Season 1. I lied again. The last line of dialogue is Mel Medarda saying,
I support Councillor Talus's proposal for peace.
Followed with the declaration of war. The council settling on peace is essentially hearing the cry for help Powder sings in episode 1. The sorrowness of the situation stems from the fact that Powder cannot hear that response. We discussed how Jinx at this point is completely capable and situated in a position ripe for the people of Zaun to hold her up as the revolutionary they need. Jinx next season will be divided between her duties for pioneering Zaun's independence with whatever relationship she has with her sister. Judging from the trailers, the latter issue won't be important at all, as she would prefer Vi also cutting out whatever relationship they've had in the past. The fact of the matter was that the Zaun under Vander, the Zaun under Silco, the Piltover under Heimerdinger, and the Piltover under Jace were never the places she felt comfortable. With the feeling of the council's neglect and the weight of expectations from around her smothering her before the time skip, then with the progress tunnel vision Piltover and the pressure of disappointing Silco, Jinx never made Piltover or Zaun her home. Until now, thrusted into the limelight of war, the endless calamities is where Jinx finds her domain. Chaos, danger, fun. Jinx thrives in creating and controlling these sorts of situations. Whether it be taking out the firelights, exploding the bridge, or setting up the whole tea party, when Jinx initiates, when Jinx attacks is when she's at the most comfortable. She only slips up and loses control when she sees the Vi hallucination, sees Vi choosing Caitlyn over her, or Caitlyn interrupting the tea party. But those are all weaknesses of Powder. Even when Jinx is the one attacked, like at the end of episode 6, she enjoys the carnage and adventure and surprise. With war, she has more reason and opportunities to cause violence, the moment of her first inspiration. As the Messiah, Jinx unites the Undercity, especially against Piltover and Noxan forces combined. Zaun needs to be unified to stand a chance. That's why I predicted that Savika and Jinx work together, and it's interesting to see Jinx help Zaunites with developing weapon modifications. For the Piltover side, Jace is in prime position to weaponize Hextech to build her Piltover forces, so the natural counterpart is Jinx imbuing Zaun to become the most wild and dangerous parts of themselves they could be, to let their monsters out. We know this in the Jinx mural, how the Zonites under Jinx have blue hair. Jinx is everything Zon needs to be, and the people rising up to be more like her is perfect. Jinx is the only one that actually damages Piltover time and time again, and her spirit and ability shared among Zonites makes them a dangerous threat. It is incredibly fitting for Jinx to spearhead the war agenda and transform the two cities into her ultimate playground, right after developing into the most capable version of herself. Jinx is the final boss of the entire war, and the movement can only be snuffed out if Jinx is gone. Jinx is on, Jinx is change, Jinx is war, and war is Jinx. Season 2 will be the last season for a Piltover-Zon conflict. War is ending whether we like it or not. We are getting a resolution. Peacetime and Jinx simply do not mix. That follows into two possible endings, one where she lives or one where she dies. There have been a lot of signs that Jinx might die, with reckless self-harm tendencies alongside the fact that everyone in Piltover probably wants her dead. In a world where Caitlyn, Echo, or Jace kills her, it makes sense how that would happen. Vi might even get the resolve to put her sister down to protect what she loves, or maybe Jinx will have a moment of guilt and do the deed herself. Being a champion aside, we understand that something final has to happen for her for everything to wrap up. Jinx existing inherently brings about conflict, for Piltover and Zon, for Vi's determination and identity, and for Zon's radicalism. But that sounds a lot better on paper than in practice. Ultimately, Arcane wishes to tell a good story. The major themes of Arcane have been change, understanding, and forgiveness. The first period of peace was achieved through equal cooperation and mutual understanding. Any power imbalance only gives way to more war. A main theme of Season 2 is going to be forgiveness, as explicitly told to us by Amanda. And that message is particularly powerful to wrap up a literal war. Hell, Jace went from Piltover's #1 disgrace to poster boy. My main point is forgiveness is factually an important message in Season 2, and it makes the most sense for it to happen at the end of war. Piltover and Zon forgive each other. Vi and Jinx reconcile. Most importantly, Jinx is forgiven. As the most hated person within Piltover, the irredeemableness of Jinx is precisely why she will be redeemed. What is the story of forgiveness if the person most needing of it doesn't get it? Think about it. Who else needs to be forgiven? Vi by Jinx? Heimerdinger by Zon? Between Vi and Caitlyn, none of those relationships necessarily need forgiveness, nor would it be that important. But for Jinx, she needs to be forgiven. Jinx will live at the end of everything. She has to. If Jinx dies, that simply hurts the ultimate message Arcane wants to tell. What is a story of forgiveness if Jinx dies? Even if she does it herself as penance, what is the story of forgiveness if she feels like she needs to die? If she feels that there is no other option for redemption? Victor goes through his entire arc trying to fall to make up for what he did to Sky. Jace tried to end it when he believed his dream is of danger to Piltover. Though the Undercity and even Silco forgave Vander, he lived on in guilt and servitude to maintain the peace and make up for what he thought was wrong in the past. Jinx's death will not set things right, only dial the situation back to zero, except that killing Jinx is like killing Napoleon, making her a martyr. Emboldened by their heroine's death, that will just mean Zon will become even more blood-hungry, much like with the fall of Silco as we see. But if Jinx lived on, sought and lived for redemption, her mindset will be passed on by the remnants of Zon. How does Jinx redeem herself? Does she get locked up in Stillwater forever? Does Jinx die and Powder comes back to live on with her sister? Does she lead a press conference around Zon on behalf of Piltover to ease tensions? Maybe becoming official diplomat of Zon with Piltover. Thematically, it's hard to predict what will happen to her. Anything goes at this point. I feel that some parts of Jinx will die and some parts of Powder will emerge, as Jinx and Peace are not a good combination. In Vi's confrontation with Jinx, though it might not be their final encounter, we see Powder's distinctive artwork on the walls as if she's crying out for help. For me, I feel that a majority of Piltover would feel unsafe and the majority of Zon would feel emboldened if Jinx remains in Piltover or Zon. Alongside her parallels with Victor, I find it fitting for the two to leave the city to spread Hextech around the world, but there's no narrative backing for that. Take it with a grain of salt. But Jinx may also die. There are so many ways the Arcane writers can make anything work. We want Arcane to have a sad ending as well. Forgiveness, even though it may be bittersweet sometimes, is inherently happily ever after. If there's any one death that would be the most impactful to the series, it will also be Jinx, simply because we watched her grow this whole time. Out of universe, I see some people saying that killing Jinx might be problematic as she's arguably the face of League and Arcane as we know it. However, even if Jinx dies, forgiveness will be a core part of her resolution. In the end, the story of Arcane is that of Jinx, the very first traces of her spawned within Powder, blossoming and taking over, until her eventual death, as change has finally been fully enacted as the two cities begin to recover. We want Piltover and Zaun to prosper again, and Jinx is no friend of creation. But for everything that the two cities needed to ensure a better relationship to thrive into the future, Jinx was perfect. Alright, thank you guys for watching my video. This one was a real doozy to write. Probably took 5 whole days writing this whole thing down. Jinx is really complicated. It's not like Victor where I can just spew down. I already know everything about him. I had to do actual research. I rewatched Arcane multiple times. One time on stream, that was fun to get this thing all out, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I felt that I didn't repeat myself too often to like stretch out time, but who knows? Who knows what you guys think? Probably no more 1 hour analysis. This is way too much work. But I'm recording this right after I finished recording the final part. So I'm pretty tired. I don't know if there's anything much for me to just talk about at the end of this video. I know in many of my other videos at the end, I just yap for like a few minutes, just giving my closing thoughts. But I honestly feel like I got all my thoughts out with Jinx. Jinx is going to be the main character coming into season 2 because she is the active player that is driving everything that's going to happen. She's probably going to change the most in season 2 as well. I wanted to make this video like more analysis and less theory like my usual stuff. So that's why I kind of avoided mentioning stuff. Honestly, with how massive this video is and the different facets of Arcane that I had to tackle, it's kind of like a compilation of every single video I've made. Jinx comes up a lot in my other videos just because her hand is in like every pot. Jinx and Echo, Jinx and Jace, Jinx and Vi, Jinx causing war, Jinx causing change, Jinx being forgiven, Jinx Hextech, Jinx shit, whatever. You guys get the image. Honestly, there are some stuff that I could have talked about more, but I really don't like repeating myself. I should have all the info cards linked with the script, so if there's any topics you find particularly interesting and you really want to go through, I highly recommend watching that one. Honestly, my Hextech video is probably one of the best videos I've made. This video is going to be the best video I've made. But before that, I would say it's the Hextech video. I highly recommend watching that. It's a bit underrated. It's kind of hard to market that video, but I really enjoy it. I know you will if you enjoyed this video. Is there anything else for me to talk about? I'm really enjoying the support. I'm really enjoying the support everyone's been giving me. Yeah, Arcane's fun. Nice to see that the League of Legends universe is going to get expanded in lots of other media. I won't be going anywhere. Hopefully you guys are doing all right, that Arcane isn't going to get any major updates for the next time being. Is there anything else for me to say? I might have to drag this out to keep it above 1 hour mark, you know? The 100 probably will make the video look very nice. I know the Arcane community loves long theories, and I should not spend a week making this shit. This was way too much work. Maybe I'll take a break. Maybe I'll live stream a bit more. You guys seem to be loving the live stream. Live streams have been fun. The goal is to hit 500 subs so I can get monetization and maybe I can buy a better mic. Yeah. Who knows? I do have a Discord, but I'm not going to plug it here. If you guys are real fans, you'll know where to find it. Anything else? I mean, yeah. This video was really hard to make. If there's anything that you thought I missed about Jinx, I would really love to know. I'll probably be making a part 2 of this video when season 2 comes out. Another hour-long video. Okay, yes, I'll do it. I know Jinx is probably the most loved character in the show. Makes sense. I know she relates to a lot of people. Is there anything else I need to cover? Probably not. I'm gonna end the recording here. Maybe I'll do another post-game session commentary tomorrow. But yeah, it's pretty late right now. Just recorded this. I'm gonna go insane. All right, this is editing malphone. I realized that the video is the video's at 59 minutes 20 seconds, so I gotta drag this out for 40 more seconds. But it's okay. It's in the morning right now. I'm a lot more energized, and I could probably talk for a long while. So yeah, is there any other character or topics I could spend a whole hour writing about? Not really. I think like the most would maybe Silco. Silco gets a lot of richness and development, as with Jinx. No, I can't, because I talked about a lot of Silco's developments within this video. So if I were to not repeat myself, it'd probably be a 20-minute video. I think at this point, it probably talked about everything Arcane like could talk about. No more 20-minute videos. At most, I'll push it to 15. But yeah, there's not too much I can still do. Don't worry, I'll find more content to talk about. I know there's a lot of fan content talking about favorite characters, smartest characters, the deadliest characters. So some of that bullshit, and then I could review your shit theories. Don't if you want good theories for Arcane, watch my videos. Don't look at like the Arcane subreddit. The subreddit, the people there are actually brain dead. If you're on the subreddit, yeah, no, I don't know what to tell you, my guy. What else? I guess that's it. Yeah, it's probably an hour at this point. Again, I'll say this again. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you watched all the way up to here, you probably did. 1 hour long. Let me know your thoughts. I love Jinx. Probably making this video, Jinx is probably my 4th favorite character, above Singed, Ambessa, Vander, Victor. So yeah, this video really helped me appreciate Jinx a lot more. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching my video. And I will catch you guys in the next one, yeah? Hopefully this video blows up and I did not spend 30 hours of my life in vain. But it's okay. Arcane community needs more content and I will be glad to provide that. See you guys.